You know, I recently read an article in the Atlantic, and it really struck me. It was called The War on Stupid People. When I saw that title, something inside me immediately cringed. But then I thought about it. It's true. The way things are right now, culture is telling us, you need to be smart, or you're a failure. A lone genius is better than a room full of average people. Isn't it strange that we say average like it's something to be ashamed of? And if average is a curse, anything less is an anathema. But I digress. Regardless, it's undeniable that America is obsessed with intelligence. Just take a look at our entertainment. Tony Stark, Dr. House, Sherlock Holmes, Walter White. The list goes on and on. All of these characters are deeply flawed individuals with one shared trait and one redeemer: intelligence. No matter how arrogant, grating, or even immoral, we love them because they're wickedly smart. And we don't just want brains in our entertainment, we want them in our love lives too. According to research from the University of Iowa, people now rank intelligence and academic success above traits like domestic skills, financial success, sociability, looks, and health when listing desired qualities in a mate. This goes for business as well. According to CEB, the world's top provider of corporate assessments, the number of people who report being tested during their application process has doubled between 2008 and 2013. And if your employer doesn't give you a test of their own, they might ask you for your SAT scores instead. The Wall Street Journal says that prominent companies like Goldman Sachs, D.E. Shaw Group, and Bain & Co. all ask for their applicants' SAT scores. So, at this point, you might be thinking, everyone loves intelligence so much, there must be something to all the hype. Disregarding the fact that that's actually a logical fallacy, it's also just wrong. Sorry to burst your hypothetical bubble. But in all seriousness, America's ongoing love affair with intellect not only causes issues for individuals, but for society as a whole. Now, I know going from hero worship to healthy skepticism in the span of 10 minutes is a bit much to ask, but I'm willing to give it a try. I hope that you are as well. So let's start by breaking down why intelligence isn't all that it's cracked up to be. Prevailing wisdom says that in order to succeed, you must be smart. Hand in hand with that notion is the idea that to do well in life, you must first do well in school. But that's not quite right. According to William Dersiewicz, a former Yale professor of 10 years and the author of novel Excellent Sheep, academic success by itself doesn't mean much. The way our education system is structured, we tend to produce students who are, quote, content to color within the lines that their education has marked out for them. Or, as a New York Times article so kindly puts it, a generation of polite, striving, praise-addicted, grade-grubbing non-entities. Ouch. Although we constantly stress over our school stats, it turns out that they don't actually have a concrete effect on our work lives. A human resources exec from Google sums it up pretty well. GPAs are worthless as a criteria for hiring. Test scores are worthless. Google famously used to ask everyone for transcripts and GPAs and test scores, but we don't anymore, unless you're just a few years out of school. We found that it doesn't predict anything. All right, so it looks like your SAT scores are irrelevant once you've been admitted to college, and your GPA doesn't have a true connection to your success in later life. But what about intelligence in general? Surely being clever is the unalloyed advantage that we've portrayed it to be. Wrong again. Apparently, high IQ and greater verbal intelligence, that is, the kind of intelligence that has to do with speech and words, correlate positively to more stress throughout the day. Alexander Pinney of McEwen University has research that shows people with greater verbal intelligence or more prone to anxiety. And not just about brainy existential questions either. It's not that their worries were more profound, says Penny. They just worried more often about more things. Not only that, but intelligence is also no guarantee of wisdom or rationality. Kia Stanovich, a researcher from the University of Toronto, has conducted numerous studies that show a high IQ does not mean that you are any less biased. In fact, people of greater than average intelligence are often more prone to ignoring their own flaws and singling out the flaws of others. Now, let's pause for a moment. All of this is not to say that we simply go where the winds of fate will, like sad little sailboats floating on an ocean of failure. Although I've probably spent the last 5 minutes convincing some of you that you don't need to do anything in school, that's not really the point of this talk. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, you really do need to try. As trite as it is, it's not really the brains or the grades that matter as much as your motivation. Now, I know that you've heard that before, but unlike most long-winded motivational speakers, I have real science to back me up. A study done by the National Institute of Health reveals something quite interesting. It shows that the amount of motivation demonstrated by students taking an IQ test had a direct impact on their IQ score. And more importantly, when researchers checked in with those students years later, the ones who showed greater motivation also had greater financial and interpersonal success in life. Now, at this point, you may be wondering, where is she going with all this? I mean, first it was, everyone loves smarts. Then it was, grades are worthless and smarts are terrible. Then it was motivation, I guess. Now, I'm sorry about that. I know that I've taken you down a lot of rabbit trails, if rabbit trails consist entirely of scientific studies. But let me break it down for you. There's nothing wrong with valuing cognitive ability. The problem arises when we allow ourselves to worship it. Our cultural obsession with cleverness has led us to glorify a trait that by itself isn't even close to achieving perfection. We misrepresent what it truly takes to succeed, and by doing so, we harm people all along the spectrum of intelligence. If you don't fit the classical mold of smart, then you're told you either need to force yourself to fit or prepare for failure. For young people especially, there is the constant pervasive threat that if you don't do well in school, if you don't get into a great university, if you don't graduate with a 4-year degree, you'll spend the rest of your miserable existence scrubbing floors at a fast food chain. On the other hand, if you do happen to be classically intelligent, you're told, you're the best and the brightest, so act like it. Now, people expect a great deal of us, but at the same time, they funnel you through this hyper-competitive academic system that doesn't even teach you how to function in the real world. We brutally stigmatize the non-smart, but at the same time, we're often cruel to those we consider too brainy, and we hold everyone to impossible expectations. Society loves to say, to each according to his own merit, but we vitally misunderstand what traits are truly meritorious. Raw brain power is nothing but a blunt weapon until you temper it with other virtues. A quote commonly attributed to Socrates goes like this: "The wise man knows that he knows nothing." I think that in order to repair the damage done by our smarts-obsessed culture, we have to take that to heart. We have to understand that smarts doesn't mean a perfect resume or a great GPA or even a high IQ. It means intellectual humility, motivation, practical wisdom. And unlike the usual definition of intelligence, those things are not doled out randomly by the whims of nature. They have to be taught. No one should be able to rest on their laurels saying, "I'm clever, so I don't need to listen." No one should be pushed aside because some number, GPA, IQ, SAT score, says that you're not worthy of success. So, next time you're feeling especially stupid, or especially smart. Ask yourself this: do I know how to admit that I'm wrong? Do I learn from my mistakes? Can I talk to people or persevere or adapt to a new situation? If you do and if you can, then you're well on your way. And if not, you can always learn. Thank you.